Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Writers Podcast. I'm here today with guest writer Ann Charles. Hello, Ann. How are you doing?
Hi, doing great. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on again.
Not a problem. This is my third time guest, so that's pretty fantastic. It was just, I believe, last December that you were on, and we were talking about another one of the books in one of your series. You've got quite a few going, so it's hard to keep them all straight for me. But
me too. Trust me. Me too.
I bet. So we're here to talk about your latest book, which is book 4 in your Deadwood Undertaker series, which you do together with your husband?
Right. Sam Lucky and I write this series together.
Cool. And it's The Backside of Hades, which is a very intriguing title.
Well, it's the story, what they get into in the story is like being on the backside of Hades. So we thought that's a fun title to go with how it feels. Mm-hmm.
I remember that you have quite a good sense of tongue-in-cheek humor in your series as well. So
yeah, I do. With titles, it's in different series. It's always picking the right title is always part of the story for me, and then writing somewhat the story to the title to make them go together well. I enjoy doing that.
Right. All right. For the benefit of our listeners who haven't come across you yet, could you just do your quick "This is your life, Ann Charles" spiel?
This is your life, Ann. Sure. I am. I've been an author. I've been published since 2011. I've been writing since the late 1990s. Had some life happen between when I started and when I first published, but all of that went to make me a better author, from the get-go. I have 5 ongoing series that I write, including one of them is the Deadwood Undertaker series that I write with my husband, Sam Lucky. And I've been fortunate enough to hit the USA Today bestseller list. I've won numerous awards for different books and had some wonderful things happen with surprise things. I was on a question on Jeopardy at one point.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I've just had some amazing things happen in my career and just keep writing and keep going and I have some wonderful readers who love the stories as much as I do, and they help keep everything running and keep going and finding new readers.
Mm-hmm. All righty. So we're talking about the book 4 in your Deadwood series and Backside of Hades. So why don't you set up what has taken place prior to this book?
Okay, sure. The first book in the series is Life at the Coffin Joint. And you can read these books individually, but they're really meant to be read in order. You're going to get the best bang for your buck storytelling-wise or story listening-wise or reading-wise. And in Life at the Coffin Joint, it's back in the 1870s in Deadwood, South Dakota, which is gold rush time. And so we meet Clementine, who is an undertaker in Deadwood, and she's the first female undertaker there, one of the first undertakers there, period. And she's actually there for more reasons than to just take care of those who aren't living any longer. She's been contracted to come in and take care of some problems that are arising because she's not just an undertaker. She's actually what we call a slayer. And this is, I don't know if I mentioned, but this is a Western with a mix of supernatural, adventure, action, lots comedy mixed in. So it's not your normal Western. And so Clementine, she's there to clean up the problems and clean up the town. And she has an assistant she hires pretty much out of the gate. They come together. His name's Hank, and he's a little bit older and helps with all kinds of stuff. He's got a lot of humor with him. And then there's 2 sidewinders, we call them. There's 2 freighters coming up from Santa Fe that they were supposed to meet their uncle in Cheyenne, but their uncle had come up to Deadwood to check out maybe expanding the freight business up that way, but he hasn't checked back in with them. So they're up there to find their Uncle Mort. And that's kind of the mystery of the story because they can't find Uncle Mort when they arrive, but they do find a lot of trouble. And then they run into Clementine and Hank, and the 2 become 4. And they become this team that takes you through the series. The second book is A Long Way from Ordinary. The 3rd book is Can't Ride Around It. We have a Christmas story that's with the series called Catawampus Christmas Carol. And then there is The Backside of Hades, which is where we currently are.
Okay. And is Hades a place?
No, it's just a reference for a town called Slagton. And
Okay.
Slagton is a troubled town, and Clem is supposed to go back there and clean up a real big mess that's come about. But when they get back there, her and Hank and the Sidewinders, it's not as easy as they thought. And right out of the gate, chapter 1, you're thrown into the action as they have to deal with some human, some non-human problems that are coming through. So it starts out with a bang, and as Sam and I like to say, just hold on to your hats, because this book is a wild ride.
Okay. Now, for listeners who haven't come across your books before, the Deadwood reference is something that we talked about in previous appearances from you, but I just want you to clarify that for newbies, because obviously the Deadwood TV series is
right
in the play as well.
Right. So yeah, this is the same Deadwood as was the TV series. I actually, my mom moved there when I was a kid. So I spent a lot of time growing up in Deadwood and the neighboring town Leeds. So my love for that area, the Black Hills and Deadwood in that area of the U.S. started when I was young. And I've spent a lot of time. There was a lot of mining, and the gold rush is real. I mean, all that really happened. So one of the things we try to do in this series is weave in true history with the fiction that we're bringing in. So you get a taste of both, and it's to give you a feel what Deadwood might have been like, but then throw some supernatural in, how things could have gone sideways even more. And then I do have the contemporary Deadwood mystery series, or Deadwood humorous mystery series. And that is the same Deadwood. It's this Deadwood Undertaker series is a prequel series to the Deadwood mystery series that I work on. Okay. And I'm working on book 13 in that series, but that's a modern day. And so there's a lot of fun crossovers between these two series because we do deal with supernatural. There's ghosts that from different times and I don't want to give away too much, but there's a lot of wonderful fun. If you like that kind of a thing, the crossovers are exciting.
Right. So it's your version of a metaverse, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Now, this series is different than your other ones in that you have a co-writer. How did that come about?
Well, so long ago when I started, I mean, my husband has been here pretty much from the start. When I started learning and starting wanting to get into this writing business. So he's always been there when we brainstorm with so much of the business. And there came a point, and he and I were watching some documentary on the Old West, and they were talking about undertakers, and we started talking about how we'd never really hear of a female undertaker back then. Is that not allowed for females, or what was the deal? So we explored that, and it came to, I think it would be fun to write this prequel series set in the Old West, set in Old West Deadwood, that has a female undertaker. And then it just built from there. And we built the crossovers and all that stuff into the modern day Deadwood contemporary series that I write. So, which has supernatural in it as well, of course. Right. So yeah, it started from that, just talking about having a female undertaker.
Okay. And how is the writing of these books different than your regular series in terms of process, because you're not working solo?
Right. With solo, brainstorming is something that's often done. I've often brainstormed with my husband with the other series. But with this one now, we actively brainstorm together and come up with the plot and come up with the different layers of what we want to include. And sometimes chapter by chapter, we're going through together. And then he starts, brainstorm it, take notes, get all that ready. He starts and he writes the first draft. And he'll go through a good portion of the story before I come in, because I'm often writing it something else. And I'm not very good at multitasking. So I have to finish one project and then put all my energy in. So we communicate a lot as he writes that first draft, and then he's finished, and then I come in and he leaves several places within with just notes to add more of this here, or what do you think of this? And then I'll come through and go through and add little bits like that throughout and work on. One of my things I like to do is keep track of details, even going back to the start of the book series, and make sure everything's consistent. Right. So I like to come through and then with the fine tooth comb and go, okay, we need to tie this in here. We need to do this here, find that kind of stuff. And then we work together through the editing process like that. And then go through publishing. He formats, He's also the one that does the graphic design for covers, and illustration and cover art is from my brother, C. Kunkel.
Mm-hmm.
So he does all that stuff. And then my husband, he'll scan it in and do what he needs to make it so it works great with an ebook, emphasize things from, because what we get from my brother is just on paper. So then you have to scan it, and then you have to do a lot of work, sometimes just to make it so it's ebook ready. The quality for print goes up a little bit. So, and that's just, a lot of details. So anyway, then we put the book out, and then it's my turn again, because I tend to like to do the marketing more. So you get to talk to me. And here I am.
Yeah, here you are. So I'm curious, how do you separate your working time together with your husband and your personal time without the two bleeding into each other? Like, are you able to leave disagreements at the writing desk, or does that sometimes
sometimes it rolls over a little? I mean, in the end, one of us will go, whatever, let's just move forward. Whoever has the strongest feelings about it wins. Okay. Usually that works out where one of us is like, that's okay, that's fine, we can go that way. Okay. So there is some back and forth. And a lot of times it's really great and everything's smooth. And then there's sometimes we disagree about a certain part on what should be in there or what shouldn't. And then we have to battle it out, pros and cons, and work it out as best we can.
So have you ever pulled the, well, I'm the real writer in this relationship?
Absolutely not. He is right there, been so much part of this from the start that, it's not a solo endeavor. It's not like limping off. I'd be in trouble. So it's the two of us together really solidly. But, we respect what each other has done up to this point, and respect. This is what he's really good at. This is what I'm really good at, and trying to work to our strengths as we fine tune this process with each one. Right.
Is there something that he's stronger at in writing than you, and vice versa?
Yes. Yeah. He is. His research. Oh my gosh. Because when you write historicals, research has to be very important. Right. If you're going to, unless you're going to totally make everything up and just tell people it's a fantasy. But otherwise, you have to do a ton to make sure you have the right gun in the Old West. I mean, there's all kinds of things. We write shotgun and how it works. There's that, and then his. I always tell him his vocabulary. He had, growing up, his mom was an English teacher in high school, and his dad was a teacher. He grew up with two teachers. So his vocabulary, I think, is much more extensive than mine. I tend to, use more, everyday terms when he really sounds to me like back then. They spoke differently. They had a different vocabulary in a lot of ways than we did. And he's so good at writing that. And I'll read it and just go, oh boy, how am I even, this is something I can't even put these words together like this. And he makes up songs in it. He'll make up a ditty or a poem or something. And it's hilarious. And they have like the girls at the saloon singing this song. And I'm like, you made that up? And he goes, yeah, I just made that up. So there's a lot of things. We each have our strengths. And so part of this process is learning what are our strengths, where are our weaknesses, and relying on each other to do that, to pick up where the other's weak. Well, that's obviously working for you. You're pumping out the books. So it's been good. Everything has its challenges. But it is wonderful to have the story to share. Yeah, for sure. So you've mentioned that with the Deadwood series, you've got 13 books out? I'm working on book 13. I've got 12 full-length novels, and there's 5 Deadwood shorts, which are novellas that fit in between and kind of tell backstory bits. So just with these two series, and I think you've alluded to it, do you have like a Bible to keep everything straight? Well, there's a friend. She came when I was at a book signing back with, I think I had 3 books out in the series, and the Deadwood Mystery series, and I was at a book signing, and she came up, and she was there for another author that was at the event, and she said,
Right.
"Oh, hey, I've read your series," and she really liked him. And then she said, do you realize you changed the color of so-and-so's eyes between this book and that book? And I went, oh, gosh. And so she's like, do you want help with that? Because she used to be a teacher. And she's like, I have the time I could help with that and put it in a notebook or something. So she has since then, and that was, I think I had 4 books out at that point. Since then, she's been with, and now I'm on book 35, I think just came out. So she's been there since that long ago. And she keeps these really detailed Microsoft OneNote. That's essentially a Bible that we can go back to and reference different parts.
Yeah, I think you mentioned her on previous podcasts, but you're really lucky that you've got somebody to volunteer to do that for you.
I know. And now she does it as a business. So she has several clients, a lot of clients. Okay. So yeah, it's really, and she enjoys doing it. But when she came up and said that, I was like, oh, I've been waiting for you to appear. I've been sacrificing chickens and whatever, just to try to get you to come to me. So yeah, it was a wonderful thing that happened. Again, another thing that's happened in my career that's been a real fortunate thing that's come my way.
Right. So you mentioned there's occasionally crossovers between the 2 series. How do you plan that out? Like now you've got this 4th book out in the Undertaker series. Did you deliberately put something in there that you wanted to use in your 13th Deadwood book? Or
we did, yeah. And so this Undertaker series, started right after I'd finished book 9 in the main Deadwood Mystery series.
Okay.
So fortunately, I had planted some ideas in there before then, just keeping, I try to do that when I write. A friend of mine calls them shotguns on the mantle, like you're ready to grab it down and go shoot with it. But I have done that throughout, and I had done some things. And then in that 9th book, because we talked about this Undertaker, that's in the Deadwood Mystery series, book 9, the talk of about an old female Undertaker in Deadwood. So then we were able to start right then, moving. And as we built the Undertaker series, do crossover things with characters already in the Deadwood Mystery series. So it's really, and we still do that. So yes, in 13, there will be more where it still reads fine without it, both series, but you can see some crossover things, which is fun.
Right. I don't remember. Is the main character from the Deadwood series, are they a relative or ancestor, or the other way around?
That is the question everybody keeps asking.
Oh, okay.
and I say, well, if you read both and you pay attention, you can get an idea what's going, if that's the case or not. But I don't say it because it's part of the fun of reading the 2 series.
Okay. So at this point, it sounds like you're just going to write these series as long as you can.
I guess as long as the story continues strong and the following is there, and the readers or listeners, I should say too, because they're also all available in audiobook. Right. But as long as everybody's still in for the ride and the story feels fresh each time, then yeah, it'll keep going.
Okay. Have you thought about, because there is supernatural elements, have you thought of like a real major crossover novel between the 2 series somehow?
Yeah, and that's another question we get a lot. Is so-and-so going to show up here? Is so-and-so going to show up here? So yeah, that's stuff too that we think about and how we tie it together. I mean, to be honest, back when I wrote the first Deadwood Mystery book, way back when, I had no idea. I knew I wanted some supernatural in it. I just had no idea at that point how big this would get, this universe, this whole idea. And it's been wonderfully able to grow and get bigger and better. And I did write it, so I try to write to leave opportunity. I always like to keep opportunity there for different things. Right. Because part of the fun is the storyteller for me. I do have some ideas where things are going and some high level plans, but I also enjoy discovering what happens in the story as it comes out too. So yeah, we have a lot of discussions about all kinds of stuff now with crossovers and future of each series. And our kids just rub their head going, are we talking about real people yet, or are we still talking about characters? My daughter recently listened to all the books, everything we have on audio, because she was just tired of not knowing who we were talking about or what was going on. So now she's in it, and she's like, now I know. Now I got it.
Well, that's cool. So you've got those two series, and you have the other series, AC, Silly Circus, Dig Site, Holiday Tales, and Jackrabbit Junction. Where are things standing with those?
Yeah, so the Holiday Tales is actually from my website. It's just a collection of all the different series, anything that's a holiday related book. So we just put them together. But so the Jackrabbit Junction mystery series, in August, we just put out the newest one of that, number 6, book 6, Twisty Tortoise Tussles. And that is an ongoing series as well. Things are still in the thick of all kinds of fun stuff happening. There are tie-ins. The heroines in that series, which is written in third person, are the Morgan sisters. And they grew up, it's a contemporary, they grew up in Rapid City, South Dakota, right next to Violet Parker, who's the star of the Deadwood series. So their cousin is Violet's best friend. So Natalie goes back and forth between the series, as well as several other characters that are in both. So that's a fun contemporary crossover that's going on. The Dig Site series, there's 2 of them, and I really want to write book 3 next year. It's been put off a couple years due to different stories coming through. I think of them as planes on the runway, and the people in that plane are getting really angry for sitting on the runway so long. But that stars Quint Parker, who's the brother of Violet Parker, who stars in the Deadwood series. So there is supernatural in that series as well. And that takes place down in the Yucatan with the Maya. So you're learning a lot of Maya history, but it's also the concept of what if all the stories and the gods and the history that the Maya people had come up with was based on truth, on real things, you know, and they've got some wild characters in their ideology. So that's fun. And then the AC Silly Circus series are novellas with shapeshifters. It's very different. I do have a way I'd like to tie those into the other series, so it's all part of the world. I haven't done that yet, but I know how I'm going to do that. So those are just, like I said, 2 novellas. I want to write more, but I think I might need to clone myself. Because there's another series I'd like to start that ties in as well. But boy, I don't know. I think the kids have to go to college. And then I have to get really bored, just me, my husband, and the cats. And then we'll have a little more time and energy. Or we'll just sit around all day and watch movies. I don't know.
That doesn't sound like you, but I don't know. So I'm curious, like, because you obviously have a full plate in that, but do you ever do like one-off short stories or anything like that just to cleanse your palate? Or?
Well, I had done this one-off, The Old Man's Back in Town, and it's a Christmas story that I had done for anthology years ago. And it's part of a series. That's that one I want to do. It's a Nevada-based series that ties in. So I try to do it, but then I always bring it back in. It's like, no, bring it back into the fold. The rest back into this. I visualize it as an empire, only instead of my buildings are like temples down in the Yucatan. You know, I have these different temples with all kinds of stuff going on. So I haven't at this time, doesn't mean I haven't thought about it now and then, just writing a single title type of thing or just a novella. But I just haven't had the time because of all these other things going on. How
have things been for you since COVID is tamped down? Do you find yourself feeling more energized, or did it not really affect you, or how's that going for you?
I actually got COVID, and it was in the midst of writing the end of Deadwood Mystery Series book 12. And so it knocked me down when we had delivery dates and all kinds of stuff we were trying to get done for. We have a Deadwood fan party every year in Deadwood. And so everybody comes, and we like to have a book just for them. And so we had to release what we called the COVID version, which had errors in it. We did a print run of it, and everybody could get it. And then we said, there's errors in it. Please don't email us with the errors because we're fixing them. But this way you got a unique book, right? So it hit that way, and we each went through it. We had it come through our house and dealt with it and made it through the other side, fortunately. Since then, though, what really knocked us down the last year or two is our parents. We've had some sickness and illness with parents. And so we had just all the emotions, all the stress driving up and we're states away from them. So driving there and helping and coming back and doing that multiple times that wore us out, and the stress that comes with your parents not doing well on top of that. So otherwise, it just feels like in the last few months, that's all been settled. The dust is settling and we're back to the energy and moving forward and all the stuff, going forth again, which feels good.
Great. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything that hasn't come up yet during our talk that you'd like to mention at this time?
No, just like I mentioned earlier, for those who like to listen instead of reading, all these books are on audio. We have the same narrator for each series throughout. So we've been really consistent since the start, maintaining that. So the audio experience is smoother, better all along. And a lot of positive reviews on that audio stuff too. I know sometimes people get really annoyed by listening, but some wonderful things on that front. Otherwise, no, we'll start working on book number 5 now in the Undertaker series, as well as I'm working on 13 in the Deadwood series, and onward we go.
Right. I don't know if, have you had are you shopping your books out for adaptations into like TV series or anything like that? Or have you had any inquiries or?
Oh, in the past I have, and then it waned. I haven't actively sought it at this time, but that doesn't mean that won't change, in the next year.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things shift. And I'm feeling maybe the urge to go and see what's coming next with all these books we have, what else we can do with them to get them out there further.
Yeah. Because there's just so much streaming content out there right now that it's crazy, so yeah. I was just curious if that was something that was going on for you or not.
Not yet. But that's why I say yet, because I am interested more and more and feeling more like, okay, I think I can handle, there's only so much I can juggle. And that's a big one, if you step wrong going in that direction, it could really blow up in your face. So, but it's exciting. I mean, there's opportunity out there.
Right. Very good. Well, I thank you for your time, and I look forward to talking to you maybe next year when your next book comes out. And until then, I wish you all the best.
All right. Thanks. Thanks again for having me on.
Not a problem. Thank you. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. And scene.